This conference will now be recorded.
First thing is invocation with Okie Landers.
Let us pray. Father, as always at the beginning of these meetings, we humble ourselves before you. We acknowledge that you are the God who truly is there, who is sovereign over all. Again, you do your will in the armies of heaven and among the inhabitants of the earth. None can stay your hand. Of you, through you, to you are all things. And Father, you have a great and a glorious end in all things. You have indeed declared the end from the beginning. And we also acknowledge and recognize that all of history, though we do not comprehend this, but yet your word declares it, is under divine control and follows a divine plan and operates according to a divine timetable and ultimately issues in the coming of the kingdom of heaven to the earth. And even, Father, this town council meeting this evening is a part of that overarching and great and glorious plan. And for that reason, I pray your blessing upon our town council leaders, the gift of wisdom to them, and that this time will issue in that which is your will. And as well, Father, I ask your blessing upon this community of Surfside. What a wonderful community, Lord, you have given us. But above everything, thank you for the gift of your only begotten Son, our Lord and our Savior, Jesus Christ, and his so great salvation. And it is in his name, Holy Father, I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, I will now entertain any motions relating to the agenda. All right, next is the minutes approval for June 20th, 2023, a special meeting, June 27th, 2023, a regular meeting, and July 3rd, 2023, a special meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve June 20th, 23 special meeting, June 27th, 23 regular meeting, and July 3rd, 23 special meeting.
Second.
Any discussion before we vote? Sharon?
Mr. Drake,
Yes.
Mr. Holder,
Yes.
Ms. Keating,
Yes.
Mr. Kinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Kreckloff,
Yes.
Mr. Stamey,
Yes.
Mayor Hellier.
Yes. That passed unanimously. And now is a time for public comments, and these are public comments relating to agenda items only. Each speaker has 5 minutes. And please, if you want to speak, please step up.
Harry Coleman, 10th Avenue North. It's a little vague here on one of the things. It's signs at events. I'm not sure it's signs at events at the no firearms allowed. Is that, if everyone would just nod their head, otherwise I'll just sit back down. That's what it's about? Okay. I was in the New York City Police Department for 27 years. I rose up to a deputy inspector, which is one rank above a captain. I know crime. I know how to stop it. And I know what doesn't work. New York City has some of the strictest gun laws in the country, along with LA, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Chicago, which have the highest gun violence. So it doesn't work. Where law-abiding citizens are not allowed to carry firearms. The only people who can carry firearms are police officers, and a select few of the citizens who have connections, and bad guys. Now, I thought that's the way it was. That's the way life was until I came down here 15 years ago and realized that 99.9% of the law-abiding citizens who carry firearms don't use them to commit crimes. In fact, they prevent crimes. So I don't remember this happening last year in June, but you had Section 8-91 carrying of weapons and prohibited locations, meetings, assemblies, or other town authorized events. I don't understand that. I honestly don't. You mean the farmer's market you can't carry it? The hula show you can't carry? Buildings owned or maintained by the town, okay, I get that. Town council, other business meetings, yeah, I get that. That makes sense. You know, especially since you have a metal detector, so you can actually prevent that. Polling places on election days, yep, that's good. Daycare, preschool facilities, sure. Town-owned parks and recreation facilities. Why? Why? State law says you can possess a firearm at a park if you have a state permit. So why are we being stricter than the state law? Doesn't make sense. And if you do carry a firearm at one of these events, it's not going to even be confiscated. So basically what it's telling you is you have a make-believe safe zone where law-abiding good citizens can't carry guns. And do anybody in this room think that somebody who wants to kill somebody, rape somebody, rob somebody, shoot somebody, assault somebody is going to be afraid they might break a violation of the ordinance that you have that, oh, you're not supposed to carry a gun here. I'm not going to go kill somebody. It's a fantasy. It's not even worth putting on paper. You can see just about every mass shooting in this country has been in a so-called safe gun-free zone. It only stops good law-abiding citizens from carrying firearms. It does not stop criminals. It does not stop bad guys. I really hope, oh, and also, you also put it in there that you have on the ordinance, section 8-22, failure to aid police. It's unlawful for any person to fail to assist a police officer when requested to arrest violators. Yet you just told them you can't help because you have to help, but you can't carry your firearm to do it. Come on, folks. You know, I can show you all kinds of statistics and all. Guns prevent an estimated 2.5 million crimes a year. Well, Obama did a study. He thinks it's over 3 million. Every year, 400,000 life-threatening violent crimes are prevented using firearms. 60% of convicted felons admit they avoid committing crimes when they knew the victim was armed. I'm not making this up. This is the truth. We have a great little town. Let's not go blue, please. Not even a little fringe of purple.
Time.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No problem. I think I got my point across. Thank you, everyone.
Are there any other public comments? Come on up, sir.
Along that same line, Gary White, Efficient TV, Lakeside Drive. Along that same line, the same item, M7B, which you're gonna be talking about. You know, it really surprised me when I saw them putting that up. And I didn't actually see them. I thought they'd just put up a nice sign. And then I see that, oh my gosh. And so I went up and took a picture later. But I wanna know, that's a big sign. It must have cost a lot of money. I would like, when you talk on it, and I think at that time, if you could determine the cost of making such signs, the cost of placing the signs, and the cost of removing the signs. Because I think we're going overboard. I think it doesn't make sense, and I agree what Harry was saying, and we just had to, this is supposed to be a family beach. And that does not seem family to me.
Are there any other public comments? Okay, moving right along, we'll go into communications, and the first thing is the administrator's report. Administrator Benson.
Mr. Mayor and members of council, good evening. I did indicate in the correspondence that the human resources position has been advertised, but it was not over the weekend, but we did get it advertised today. So we've advertised the human resources position or specialist. Anticipated start of October 1. This position will be advertised as open until closed, depending on the qualifications of applicants. In addition, there may be an opportunity to assign some additional financial duties to this position to lighten the load on the finance department, but we'll wait and see. But right now, it is a human resources specialist position. Number 2, the request for proposals at the pier for the last vacant unleased shelf space is due July 14th, which is this week at 3 p.m. These proposals, when received, will be presented to council for their review, discussion, and approval. And we have approximately 2 that we received thus far, but we are anticipating a couple more by the end of the week. Just as a notice to the council members, that the Municipal Association of South Carolina annual meeting is in Greenville, South Carolina, this coming up July 26th through the 29th. And I know Sherry has sent out the information to the council members and myself, and I know a couple of you guys will be attending as well. And then lastly, I am continuing to meet with committees, committee chairs, and boards and commissioners, and I plan to set up those meetings with the ones I have not met in the near future. That's all I have there.
All right, thank you. The next thing on the agenda is the peer update by Chief Clemens.
Good evening, Mayor's Council. Mr. Benson, to update our community on the pier. Intercoastal Marine has completed all of the demobilization. They are also completing the caulking of the decking on the pier, and the only thing left as far as the caulking is the expansion joint between the pier and the podium. The buildings and the podium, Consensus is completing their punch-out list, and HTC has installed the main wiring for the elevator and for the fire suppression system. And they are continuing to wrap up that installation before the elevator and fire alarm installation and inspection can be done. I have mentioned at the last couple council meetings about the monumental stairs and the ADA handrails. We had a discussion at the meeting today that Consensus has provided the updated monumental stair railing drawings to Collins and LS3P. Collins has spoken with Consensus this morning, and one of the things that they're still working through is the physical color of the white, and they are waiting to receive some of the samples from Consensus. Consensus stated that they will get those color samples to Collins and LS3P by the end of the week, and they're hoping to have the review of the monumental stairs completed as far as all the shop drawings by the end of today. They are shooting for install sometime the week of July 24th for the handrail installs. The end of the pier structure, there's been some discussion about the correct anchors. I mean, you all already see that structure is already erected at the end of the pier. There's been discussion about the type of anchors that were used. There was a robust discussion today, and all of us are working together to rectify that issue. And myself and Mr. Vincent asked the question today, is this going to delay the opening of the pier? Still shooting for the August 8th as the substantial completion date, and we were told that this should not cause a delay, and Consensus has already started to remove some of those anchors as they work through that issue. The pier access gate, Collins did receive the shop drawings from Consensus today, and they're hopefully getting that completed this week. Staying ready to answer any questions.
Have we set any deadlines with the engineers yet on these stairs and railings? Now they're trying to pick what color they want, color white.
Well, there's been there's deadlines. There's been no deadline set. We've been talking about the timelines. I mean, there's timelines that haven't been met probably by all 3 parties that are involved in this pier: the town, the engineer, the architect, and Consensus.
Need them to get with it, pick the white they want, and we're gonna set a date and a time, it's gotta be completed.
So we did, and Mr. Vincent can add to this comment, when we met with them today, and I can tell you that I have brought this up at the majority of the meetings that I have been participating in, and we've told them this pier needs to get finished, and you better meet that August the 8th date. We've also talked about all of them coming to the council meeting on the, is that the 25th, to give all of you an update, and, but it is a point of discussion at all of the meetings that we have. It was even reiterated today by Mr. Vincent.
Mr. Mayor, we've had this problem ongoing forever. And it always seems to be the same answer. We're working on it. We're working on it. We were providing dozens of colors of white to Troy over the past 2 years for this same railing. Why are we waiting to the last minute to start talking again about what color white goes on these things? I think it's time we just tell them it is deemed approved, we are moving forward, because it really, really looks like they are just intentionally trying to delay this project
Well,
over a color of white.
I can't put myself in their head, Ms. Keating, but I can tell you that discussion happened today. And Mr. Vincent will tell you, I told them today, actually talked to Zane and said, you need to get this done. We can't be wrapping our head around the colors. There have been a lot of discussion about the color of the railings. This needs to be done. And that was a conversation that was very poignant today. And again, it's not like that conversation has not happened from the town. As our representative of you, it has happened. So, and again, we told them today to the point where it's like, move them along. This has to be done on the 8th as a substantial completion date.
Well, I would wager that, we need to take a stronger line and say this needs to be done as soon as possible. And not give them to the 8th to continue a discussion that we have had for 3 years.
We did that. That's what was said today.
We need to draw the line and say, we're done. We're not entertaining any more of these little petty comments. Oh, I want better pictures here. I want another drawing of this. I want another view of that. I want 15 more shades of white. No, we've got to draw a line and say no more.
We did that.
And we did.
We did that today, yes,
We had
ma'am.
our peer committee meeting at 10 o'clock. It ended maybe 45 minutes later, and then we had contacted Zane individually and Doc individually. We said, we're drawing the line, let's get it done.
Okay.
We need to get it
And
done.
when is HTC going to be complete such that we can get the final approvals on
So Keith, the
most
representative,
pieces?
sorry, Ms. Keating. Keith with HTC, him and I had 2 conversations today. Matter of fact, John, there was emails that went out. I talked to him. There's one piece, he's actually got his crews moving out there to get this finished so they can get that done before the inspections will take place. So we followed up on that
We don't
today.
have a tentative date for the inspection?
I don't know the date I don't have the date for the inspections. They need to finish, there's a piece that they need to finish as far as a connection, and HTC is finishing that.
If I may, the connection to the building is done, but the individual runs to the fire system and the elevator and to the town office have to be done. And he told me in a conversation today, which you may not be aware of, it should happen this week.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. I know when I talked with him later, he said that he's got his crews moving on it.
Yeah, there was some
So-
ATC trucks down there today, in fact, so it's a good start,
So in theory, the inspections can be next week,
I would say.
in
We're-
theory.
Yes, ma'am,
They
we're
get it
hoping.
done.
Yes.
Okay.
How about the phone insulation that's under the pier, supposed to be put under the pier?
So there was still, they are still, there's been a lot of discussion about the type of material in the manufacturer. And that has been still a point of contention. That was also a discussion today. Pick it, spray it.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth. And I've had multiple conversations with them about that also. So, again, we're not just idly sitting by and not having timelines and talking and pushing them along. But that was a conversation again today.
So
Yes,
this
sir.
ain't gonna be a delay for the foam insulation?
I was told, because I specifically asked that question, is this going to delay when this is picked? And we were told no, that it will not delay, that it's a fairly easy, quick installation.
Is it consensus or is it, the engineer, again, going back to what you're saying about picking? Who's picking?
That's a loaded question, Mr. Drake. It is, I mean, we say LS3P, we say Collins. I can tell you that we waited for months to get shop drawings from Consensus. There's a lot of pieces that I know council was aware of, and I could stand up here and I could pass blame for the 6 months that I have been trying to get this finished according to your all's direction to go around. It really is. And yeah, it is LS3P some, it is Collins, and it is the town, and it's Consensus. But the decision was made that we have to get this done.
Yes.
We can't keep talking about a white handrail. We can't keep talking about some of these things. Here's what we want, and we have reiterated it every single meeting. And today the rubber met the road, because I went to Mr. Vincent's office and said, well, he's on the call anyway, but we were there together as a collective, front to say, you got to get this thing done. And we had those conversations with the individuals.
Mr. Mayor, how about the parking lot?
I think John could probably speak better to the parking lot than me. I know John's doing a lot of work on that, and
Yeah,
we're ready to start
we're
that.
prepared to strike. The notice to proceed hasn't been given yet because Intercoastal Marine has just cleared all that stuff out of there, and there's a gas line that has to be put in by Dominion, and we don't know what their timetable is, so I don't want to give them a notice to proceed, which starts the 45-day clock on the parking lot until we know what the timetable is for that gas line. But it's definitely ready to go. I believe they have their bonds already. I'm just waiting for a couple of things to fall into place.
Yeah.
They've done some prep work. They've torn down the dumpster enclosure, the brick dumpster enclosure. They've done some scouting around, some potholing for the drainage that needs to go in. So they're exploring and getting ready. But we haven't pulled the trigger on the notice to proceed yet because that starts their contractual clock.
Thanks, John.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next thing is a KSBB presentation.
Mr. Mayor, council, residents, and special guests, thank you for having us tonight. I'm Ellen Delaplane, chairwoman of Keep Surfside Beach Beautiful. I am proud to announce that we held a ribbon cutting ceremony today, just right before this meeting, to launch the Keep America Beautiful cigarette litter prevention program here in the town of Surfside Beach. And we had many special guests join us at the ribbon cutting. Some are still here tonight, and I would like to recognize them. Sarah Lyles and Joe Berry from Palmetto Pride. Joe is going to say a few words in just a minute. You don't have to stand yet, Joe. South Carolina Representative Val Guest, Jerry Shea from Russell Fry's office. They gave us a lovely certificate of appreciation. And Brooke, Miss North Myrtle Beach, who is still with us in the back. And we have special Surfside Beach swag bags for all of our special guests, which Trish will give out in a minute. Let me tell you a little bit about the program. Thanks to this grant, it's a grant through Keep America Beautiful and their partnership, we will be installing, in fact, some are already installed, 50 free new litter stands. Thank you, Vanna, to collect and recycle cigarette butts throughout the town. These canisters will be placed in high traffic areas. This initiative is spearheaded by Keep Surfside Beach Beautiful and the town of Surfside Beach Public Works, and in conjunction with our friends at Palmetto Pride. You're going to hear from John and from Joe in just a few minutes. From our beach sweep and street sweep program, we know that cigarette butts are our biggest litter challenge here in Surfside Beach. And we are not alone. Cigarette butts may be small, but they are still the #1 form of litter in the United States. We have learned from Keep America Beautiful that clearly marked ash receptacles are crucial to changing littering behaviors. In fact, the communities that have implemented this program over the last couple years have reported an average of 51% reduction in cigarette litter. KSBB has been brainstorming how to tackle this issue for years. And I do want to give a special shout out to Trish Smith because this has been her baby from the beginning. She's been very passionate about this and she's really taken the lead. So thank you, Trish. We heard about this program. We reached out to learn more. And I just want to mention one success story that really piqued our interest. Keep New Hanover Beautiful in North Carolina. They started out with 2 volunteers and 25 canisters. In a few short years, they grew their program to 108 community partners, 400 canisters, and over 2 million butts collected and recycled. Dick Brightman, the executive director of Keep New Hanover Beautiful, immediately put us in touch with Sarah Lyles and Joe Barry from Palmetto Pride. And you guys, they were so pumped to hear from us. They were so excited. They were so quick to arrange to get us our 50 free canisters. So Joe and Sarah, we really do appreciate you so much. One of the coolest things about this program, one thing that I really like to talk about is how the cigarette litter is collected and recycled. So every butt that makes its way into one of these receptacles is collected periodically and it's mailed off to a specialty recycling program company called TerraCycle. TerraCycle sterilizes the cigarettes and they separate the tobacco from the filters and from the paper. The tobacco is composted, the paper and filters are then recycled into usable products and materials like furniture, chairs and tables, shipping pallets, plastic lumber, and even surfboards. To ensure the success of this program, KSBB will focus not only on the canisters in high traffic areas, but also on public messaging to educate residents and visitors on the importance of disposing properly of their cigarette butts. But we can't do it alone. So we're asking for our community to get involved and to support this very important mission. And there's one very easy way to do that tonight, which is signing our pledge. It's our The Butt Stops Here pledge. Signers of the pledge are agreeing to use the canisters around town and or dispose of cigarette litter properly. And of course, to encourage others to do the same. Today alone, we have over 350 signatures on our pledge, and I'm very excited about that. We were at the farmer's market today and then the ribbon cutting. I will leave this clipboard in the back, and I invite all of you to please sign it if you are willing. We plan to continue our community education through signage, public service announcements, media coverage, and other town activities. Please do follow us on Facebook to stay up to date with the program's success. Our handle is KSBBSC. There is a Keep Surfside Beach Beautiful in Texas, so don't follow them. Together, the Public Works team and KSBB volunteers are committed to this gold standard program, and we really hope the community will get behind us. Now I would like to turn it over to our friend John Adair, Director of Surfside Beach Public Works Department. A huge shout out to John and his team for their incredible leadership in helping this program come to fruition.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, they sure are striking, aren't they? It's a great program. I can tell you that I was aware of this program a couple of years ago. I saw a vendor table at a conference, and there's a lot of moving parts to participating in this program, which I alone didn't think that Public Works can handle with our workload. KSBB contacted me not too long ago and said they also became aware of the program, and they would like to help me implement this, and I was thrilled. I couldn't tell you how thrilled I was. Litter of all types costs the taxpayers a hefty price to clean up, impacts our quality of life, deters economic development, and eventually pollutes the waterways and oceans. Cigarette butts are the worst toxic debris. They release microplastics into the waterways and the ocean. Sadly, studies in South Carolina have counted over 6,000 butts counted in a quarter mile of beach alone, and that was just a couple of years ago. On the positive side, the program participating communities have consistently cut cigarette litter by more than 50% based on local measurements taken in the first 4 to 6 months after implementation. We started with 2 locations. We now have about a dozen installed, maybe a little bit more now. We're putting more up every day. I picked up 35 from Columbia a couple of Fridays ago, and I believe the rest were delivered to town today. So within a short period of time, all 50 of these canisters will be installed in prominent locations throughout town, at every beach access, parks, wherever you could think of, the dog parks, the tennis courts, everywhere. In front of a couple of businesses where people who smoke congregate, we'll have these canisters. Based on our success, we hope to request even more canisters and continue to spread the word amongst our residents, visitors, and businesses. And with that, I want to introduce Joe Berry from Palmetto Pride, the Special Projects Manager.
Mr. Mayor, Council, those of y'all that I saw earlier, welcome back. But those that didn't get to meet me, I just want to say thank y'all. Getting towns and towns to take up the initiative makes this program a lot more successful. We can piecemeal it and send individual businesses their canisters, or send individual, put them out in sparse areas around the county or around the city. But having a concerted effort really helps make this program work more effective. So thank y'all for y'all's commitment to this. Thank Keep Surfside Beautiful's commitment to this, and even John's commitment to this. It's a program that you will see impact, hopefully, in the very near future. I spoke a little bit earlier today, but I'll repeat it. There's a perception of litter in South Carolina, or really all around the world. When you think of litter and you close your eyes when you think of litter, you always just think of the impact it has on marine life. Y'all being this close to marine life, y'all probably think even closer to it. But it happens all the way up in the upstate, all over the country. They always think about the sea turtles and what the damage does to it. But it's really the cigarette is the biggest issue. And this program really helps to address that in a very common sense, practical way that really will help close the loop on all the materials we collect, but also close the loop on making sure that the butt ends up where it's supposed to be and not on the ground. But guys, I appreciate everything y'all have done and the work and commitment to this program. We look forward to hopefully the success it's going to be, not even hopefully the success it's going to be in the future, and the continued partnership to make sure that we help keep Surfside beautiful, keep Surfside litter free, and help keep South Carolina litter free. So thank y'all so much.
Okay, next thing in discussion is Chapter 12 with Director John Adair.
Good evening again, Mayor, Council, citizens. This is a little bit of housekeeping. As you all know, we passed an updated Chapter 12 in the fall. I believe it was September. Since then, we've identified two small issues which need to be changed on the ordinance, and hopefully you'll direct me to bring it back for a first reading. The first change, which is instrumental to enforcing this obstructions ordinance that you all passed in 1221D, in the, I believe it's the third or fourth sentence, there's the word permanent for permanent structures in the right of way. And there's been some confusion about that with the public when it's been brought up, because there are some items that aren't necessarily permanent, but they shouldn't be there. I'll give you an example. One of my trash trucks hit a portable basketball net the other day that was sticking out over the road, and it tipped it over, and it landed and it broke the window of a car that was parked there. And so an accident report was made, and they'll probably file a claim with our insurance. The point of the matter is that basketball hoop was an obstruction in the right of way, but it's not permanent. The code enforcement officer has gotten that pushback from some of the property owners in town. Well, it's not permanent, so the ordinance says permanent, so you can't make me move it. So we would like to remove the word permanent and just put structures or fixtures, fences, etc., without the word permanent in there, and make that change. I think it makes a lot of sense, and it'll be a lot more enforceable at that point. The second change is on the beach section, 1267, obstructions on the beach. And this is something that we did not pick up on, because I guess we weren't focused on it back in September. But the emergency beach accesses that are listed in the table in 1267D, it calls for a certain amount of clear space on either side of an emergency access for the emergency services to get in there. And most of the accesses is 25 feet or so. And for some reason, the pier emergency access, it calls for 150 feet on the north edge of that access way and 100 feet on the south side of that access way. Now, that's never been enforced. although it has been on the books, I guess. But people always camp out under the pier for the shade, and that's never been enforced by any beach patrol in my memory. So I think that should be changed to maybe 50 feet on the north side, which will take you over the Swash, and maybe 25 feet on the south side of the access. And that's a lot more reasonable. So those are two changes. I did reach out to all the department heads, asking if they had any other suggestions for chapter 12 to read through it, and I didn't get any responses. So I think these two are the ones that need to be brought back. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions?
John, on Third North, they just added, last couple of weeks, a bunch of rocks right in the right of way. And I don't know where that stands. Third North, right there where you go to the parking, across from where the parking is.
Yes.
And they just added a bunch of rocks on both sides of the street. And I thought we weren't allowing any permanent rocks to be added.
Yeah, well, that will be one of the addresses that receives a letter. We met, once Mr. Jarrett was brought on board recently, we sat and had a meeting with me and Mr. Vincent, and we talked about an appropriate letter to send out. And it was determined that rather than send them to the entire town, we would go down and write down every address, similar to what we did when we did that survey back when, and send each person who's not in compliance with the ordinance a letter and give them X amount of days to get into compliance. And then after that time period expired, resurvey it again and see who was left. And so in that case, those rocks will have to go because they fall into a prohibited item on this ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, so John, are we going to enforce the part where it says to place anything in the right of way requires an encroachment permit? I mean, I know we say nothing within 3 feet of the roadway, low, soft vegetation thereafter. Is that still subject to an encroachment
Yes.
permit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we're allowing the encroachments with an encroachment permit, the
Okay.
allowable encroachment.
But that's even the low level vegetation as well?
Yes.
Perfect, okay, thank you.
Yeah, we've issued one already.
What about pylons?
That would fall into the large prohibited things that are hard to move and might damage a vehicle.
Is there any, Mr. Mayor, is there anything else that you want to put in this so your guys can enforce it and do a better job at enforcing?
Well, like I said, if we remove that permanent word, that'll go a long way to making this enforceable. And then again, once we send our letters out to the X amount of people who are in violation, and then I guess we'll see at the end of the day how many have to get a follow-up letter or enforcement beyond that.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. If I could get a direction to bring it back for first reading, that would be helpful.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to instruct the Director of Public Works to prepare the ordinance for modifying Chapter 12 as discussed.
Second.
Any discussion before we vote? Sherry?
Mr. Drake,
Yes.
Mr. Holder,
Yes.
Ms. Keating,
Yes.
Mr. Pinkins,
No.
Mr. Crackwell,
Yes.
Mr. Stamey,
Yes.
Mayor Hellier.
Yes. Next thing on the agenda is Pivot Parking Financial Statement by Tina Reed.
Oh, you missed one.
You missed one.
Missed one, B.
Sign of it.
Oh, signs at events, I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor, when we did the 4th of July celebration, my phone started ringing off the hook that morning, and my phone number's public. So I don't care who has my cell phone number. If they need to reach me, they can reach me. And I went down there just to see what people were calling me about. And this huge sign down there says concealed weapons not allowed, no concealed weapon allowed, with a big gun and a circle going through it. I was confused because I said, we never really talked about that or doing anything with it. And after I talked to Kenny, he come back, it's our police chief, he said that there was some discussion on it and the state law. And I said, okay. So I gave Mr. Vincent a call and went down the list with him, and then he responded back to me. But the law basically was in effect since August 15th of 21. And we've never put up any of these signs other than this building, a public building of any sort, stuff like that. Then we had the day after, they had the thing at the park, the vendor thing down there, and the signs were gone. Well, on Tuesday, I'd almost bet Tuesday we got more people at the park than we did at the 4th of July. And we're not Chicago, as it was mentioned, and we're not New York, and we don't want to be California. We're South Carolina, and we have that for a reason. Is I would feel much safer knowing there's 10 citizens carrying a handgun in that park with our law enforcement there to render aid or to stop somebody that's determined to kill people. And I had visitors walk up and ask me, is something going on in Surfside? But it's signed to be here. And I said, no, it's put there for a reason, but we're going to see about it. That's all I could say. And then I got other calls, and on Facebook it's all about council. Look what council's doing. Look, the council didn't do anything. So I'm just bringing it to the board to look at, and it says basically a governing body can decide to or not to. So if that part of the ordinance in chapter 8 needs to be changed, I think it needs to be to give our law enforcement directions on this, because that sign does not look good. It sends a bad image to Surfside. I mean, if I saw that in Myrtle Beach, I'd expect it. But we're not Myrtle Beach, and we don't want to be Myrtle Beach. So I think we as a council need to send direction to our law enforcement and back them up, but look at this in a different light. Anybody else?
I agree.
Do we know who ordered the signs?
Well, Mr. Vincent, I'll let you speak on that.
So prior to the event, there was a conversation by staff of that the signs need to go up, whether it's on a temporary or permanent basis. My understanding was going to be on a temporary basis based on concern of an event that happened around Christmas. And I had talked to Chief Hoffman about that, and so that was the reasoning for the signs.
Well, I mean, there's a reason we have a metal detector here. You know, I don't know what it is, but all of a sudden we have a metal detector. So, you know, if everybody that owned a gun was qualified to own a gun, it'd be different. But you've got people that have guns legally that aren't qualified. They could shoot the back door if they wanted to. So I'm not sure I want a bunch of people running around with guns. I want the police there, and they're always there.
Mr. Mayor, anybody that goes before SLED and gets a concealed weapon permit, they have to go to a class. They have to present their firearm they're going to be carrying. It has to be that gun, and they have to be good at shooting. They can't just, I got a permit and I can't hit the outside of the barn. You're not going to pass.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to hear from Kenny. Kenny's law enforcement here in town. Maybe he can clarify what we need to do and how we need to carry out this order. If he seems to think that that's what we need to put up at every event, maybe we need to put permanent signs out.
Mr. Mayor and council and citizens, I know this has been a hot topic. I've been watching some of the social media threads on it. I'll let you know that the conversation occurred initially because I got complaints of people who had weapons at your Christmas parade last year. So there were concerns from taxpayers about people carrying guns to your Christmas parade. And I know the law had been in effect for a little while, but it hadn't been a problem, and then it was a problem. I don't know, it's really just a decision of council. We can edit chapter 8 and we can take out town-sponsored events. If you're okay with people carrying guns at your town-sponsored events, it's an easy edit to your ordinance. My concern was that we had a town-sponsored event where we were serving alcohol. The town engaged someone to sell alcohol at a town-sponsored event. I think that changes the dynamic a little bit. You have alcohol and weapons and things can go wrong. So I assure you that the staff recommendation to put the signs up was only in the interest of public safety, not to strip anyone of their Second Amendment rights or take away anybody's freedoms or anything like that, but in the interest of safety. But again, if the citizens and the council would like to amend chapter 8, that's an easy fix. We can allow people to carry weapons at your town-sponsored events. We just can't have it both ways. You can't pick and choose. The signs are huge and they are hideous. State law specifies exactly what the signs will look like so that people have proper notice that they can't carry weapons at that particular location for the duration and location only of the event only. And that's why the signs were there on the 4th and not there on the 5th of the next event. I thought that it was prudent to bring it up as we had a discussion with the events folks and coordinated and had a discussion with the administrator, and we thought it would be in the interest of public safety to put them there. If it offended anyone, I apologize. But we, again, just a discussion and happy to, you can amend chapter 8 and take that out. It's no problem. So that was it.
What was the size of the signs?
4 foot by 3 foot.
And that's by state?
Is section.
Because I mean, if you're looking at the town hall, you can't bring a weapon in town hall.
Right.
No, we don't have a 4.
No, there's a difference. There's 2 different sections of the state law, 2331, 235. One specifies for buildings, which is the smaller sign like you have right on the back of that door behind you. But then another section, section C, says that the sign must be 36 by 48 inches tall in size, have the words "no concealable weapons allowed" in black 3-inch tall uppercase letters at the bottom of the sign, centered between the lateral edges, contain the black silhouette of a handgun inside a circle, so forth and so on. Be placed not less than 40 inches nor more than 96 inches above the ground and posted in sufficient quantities to be clearly visible from any point. So that we just followed the law, and we followed the ordinance as it's written and followed the state law to give proper notice of it. So that's, I agree, the signs they're not attractive, but.
Mr. Mayor, what was the pedigree of the threat at the Christmas parade?
I wouldn't say it was a threat.
I mean, nothing was brought to council about it. You know, if we're catering to 1 or 2 Karens out there, you know, how many complaints did we actually get? Was anybody actually misbehaving or just having a concealed weapon?
They were exposed to open carry weapons at the Christmas parade. So there wasn't an event or any problem. There was no formal complaint. It was mentioned to me informally as the police chief to be aware. And I thought that when I saw this event that we were having 4th of July and that there was going to be alcohol there, that's when we were talking about signage to make sure that we have proper signage regarding the alcoholic beverages, so nobody takes them out, that type of thing. And I brought up the discussion, take full responsibility for it regarding whether we should have the no concealable weapon signage, because it is in our ordinance. Heaven forbid there was an incident. The discussion we'd be having right now is, Chief, you had an ordinance, you had a law, why didn't you follow it? So again, on the side of caution, but happy to work with you to change it.
Mr. Mayor, I'm for any town event, sponsored events. If you're supposed to have a sign, no concealed weapons, I'm all favor for it. Whatever the law requires, whatever our ordinance requires, should be what we do. And listen, it might be my child or my grandson or granddaughter who's out there, that some person who has a handgun that comes to these events, that person might be the one that gets shot. So I think we ought to give Kenny and the law enforcement all the effort that we can do, whatever it takes. If we need to put signs up at all our events, that's what we need to do. But besides that, we were serving alcohol at this event that I don't know exactly how it got approved. So that, on that subject, you get a drunk out there and not a handgun, it can be dangerous. And I'd like for my police department to have the right to send somebody home if they got a gun or take them in custody.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Stanley, I hear you, but you're missing some of the stats that come out all the time. The only time these places get attacked is when the gun-free zone is in effect. That's the only time. We're not talking about Mr. Bob or Mr. Jones or Miss Smith down the street who couldn't, wears Pepsi Gold glasses and can't hit the broadside of a barn carrying a handgun. They have to pass a SLED background check. Now, the bad guy, he don't care. So when he shows up with it packed in his pants and he decides he's had too much to drink, or he decides he doesn't like the way somebody looks and he decides to start shooting, I really would hope there's somebody there carrying in South Carolina to help you. And not that I don't think y'all can't handle it, but it's nicer to know there's 10 good guys and 3 good cops than 3 good cops and you're it.
Well, just remember that if you don't have the law and you don't have the signage and there's a report that somebody has a weapon at an event and you allow weapons at your events, law enforcement has no right to stop and investigate.
If they're doing something wrong, you can. If they're doing something wrong.
Okay.
If they're not causing a problem.
What if I went and I was at the park, right? I have a concealed weapon permit, and I'm over there drinking a beer. That's not right either, right?
Right.
That's illegal.
I mean, because I'm drinking.
The stop would be
But there's
for
no way
the
that you
open
can
container,
regulate
right?
it.
You couldn't prevent it if it was a bad guy doing it.
But, Mr. Mayor, there seems to be yet again a misstep in following our own ordinances because, I wasn't aware there was any alcohol at the 4th of July event.
Me neither.
I walked around it a couple times. I'm surprised my husband didn't sniff it out, quite frankly. But why did that not come to council for a resolution to temporarily suspend the ordinance? To allow the consumption of alcohol in that public place?
They gave a terrible.
Because then you could have presented your recommendation that since that was there, you recommend putting the signs up and none of us would be having this conversation. Once again, we just don't seem to want to follow our own rules.
I could be mistaken, Councilwoman Keating, but I think that the new Chapter 12 has that built into it. I could be wrong on that, and that may be why that happened. I don't know, but I can't answer that question.
I don't think Chapter 12 builds in temporarily suspending an ordinance. That has to go through council.
Right.
Mr. Mayor. Chief, the reason you put the signs up was because you knew they were going to have alcohol there.
It was a concern that I had, and it's what led me to believe that we needed to get the signs at that particular event.
If it did not have alcohol, would you have made the same decision?
My mindset would be thinking about the concerns that citizens had about the Christmas parade. The alcohol was what triggered me to think that we need to be very cautious at these events. The liability would be very high for the town at a town-sponsored event that is allowing the serving of alcohol. And if there was a gun-related incident, and we have an ordinance on the books that forbids weapons at gun-related incidents, and we weren't enforcing the ordinance as written, I would think that that could be problematic.
Okay.
So.
Mr. Mayor, that if you're permitted, concealed permits, you know that you cannot have a gun at any alcohol events. You can lose your permit.
Right.
And you can be fined for that. So you know that, the training tells you. And, excuse me, but open carry, there's a difference between open carry and concealed carry.
Yes, sir, there is.
So I can understand that.
Well, I wanted to bring it up to everybody so that we can correct Chapter 8 and the Constitution can be followed, the state law can be followed, and that way that, and if the alcohol is the issue, then I think we're the Surfside Beach Family Beach, I think we can refrain from drinking for an event. I really think we all can refrain from drinking, because we had kids out there in that bubble thing having a great time out there. I mean, my grandson played so hard, poor thing, he conked out when he got home. He got overheated. But I think we can refrain from drinking, if that's the problem. But to put up these signs, they're so hideous, they look terrible, and it's not safety, it's a false image of safety. If you're gonna believe that you're gonna put up a sign and tell a bad guy not to bring a gun, and that's gonna work, I invite you to go to New York, Chicago, Pennsylvania, go to some of these big cities. Go, if you wanna go short, go to Richland County. Yeah, a lot of, he'll take you around and show you all the shootings. They have so many that don't even make the news. So.
But don't you think, Michael, that when this is advertised like that even Kenny would have the right to check somebody? I mean, even if they got a concealed, I mean, that would at least gives him the right to check somebody.
Sure, he still has that right.
I don't mean that these people with concealed weapons are probably law-abiding citizens, but I'd rather have the law enforcement there with their guns than I have 10 other people out there with guns shooting too.
How do you know that another 10 ain't
Mr.
there
Mayor.
already?
Mr. Mayor.
Everybody's talked twice.
Okay,
Yes.
I got it.
So,
But I wanted to bring it up as a motion, if it can be done, to look at this, or we can have another talk about it. But I know my phone rung off the hook, so I don't know about everybody else's, but mine did, so.
I think we'll have further conversations with Kenny on this and figure out what we're gonna do. But any alcohol at an event needs to come through council.
Yes.
Is that
We
correct?
never did.
So, okay.
We have to temporarily suspend an ordinance.
I'd like to say also that, even if whoever, well, it was board, it doesn't matter who it was, but they have a permit, but that doesn't mean that they have a permit for a special event. And a special event permit has to be gone through, SLED before it can even be
Well, we had a
officially.
special event at the Celebrate Surfside.
Well, there's no special event permit for a town event.
Yes, there is. Yes, they have to still have a special event license from the state,
To serve
They
alcohol.
look into it.
Well, we'll investigate it, we'll look into it, and then we'll go from there. All right, the next thing on the agenda is Pivot Parking Financial Statement by Tina Reed. Good evening.
Good evening, council. Wanted to quickly go over, we were asked to go over our May financial statements that we provided, just so we have a better understanding of how, I'm sorry, this better?
Yeah.
Wanted to go over May financial statements, just so you could understand a little bit better. We endured some rain during May. Some of that rain was on weekends, which affected some of the revenue generation. May overall was below budget in revenue generation if you included our budget for peer revenue. If you exclude that, then we are just slightly below budget for the month. We had text to park transactions totaled $27,000. They're about $27,800. Your Park Mobile applications totaled $20,461. Violation revenue totaled $6,712. For text to park transactions, you had 5,140 transactions for the month of May. And for Park Mobile, you had 4,442 transactions for the month, totaling 9,588 transactions. Expenses overall for the month, we've tried to remain expenses to be as low as possible. And so we did come in under budget for expenses for the month. We were about $3,400 less in expenses than we budgeted. Couple other key points for revenue. Our year-to-date through May, without including peer revenue, our budget was $172,594. To date through May, actuals have been $168,849, so we're about a $3,700 variance. And again, some of that attributed to the weather in May. We had the rain on the weekends and Memorial Day attributed to some of that. We have seen an increase. I'll give you a quick summary for the total for transactions for March through May. We've had a total of 26,129 payments from March through May. 14,389 was text to park, and 11,740 were Park Mobile transactions. We are seeing an average duration length of stay with text to park be longer than with the Park Mobile app, which is what we were anticipating. For May, the average duration was about 2 hours and 37 minutes, whereas with Park Mobile, it was 2 hours and 22 minutes. So that's kind of the average for that. I will tell you quickly that our preliminary numbers for June, that we are significantly above budget. We've had really great weather and that's been really, really helpful. So without including the peer revenue, our preliminary numbers, we are 20% above budget projections for revenue. So it has been a good June, and we expect July to be even better. So open for any questions if anyone has anything.
Mr. Mayor, I do have one question.
Okay.
And I don't expect an answer right now. But later in, the next item, not the next item, but first item in business is a parking recommendation. And it's for the lot that's on.
The gravel lot that you're
Yes.
talking about for the employee lot? Yes, sir.
Yes, and I have the numbers if you need them. You probably can find them easily too. But anyway, in the sheet that we have from the parking committee, they said that approximately $240 was the total revenue last year. I would expect we've already surpassed
We've exceeded that. I pulled those numbers. Let me see here. I was just able to quickly pull the text to park numbers, not the Park Mobile numbers for that lot. And from March to May, that lot has generated $4,890 in just text to park transactions. So that makes your average space per lot, revenue per space for that lot at $152.81 per space for March through May.
And there is one other question I would like, and this one I'm pretty sure you don't have, but I would like to know how much our beach access points, where it's just golf carts only, how much those have made, because I know from your standpoint, they're kind of a labor intensive compared to the other lots. And is it worth it? Because is it mostly residents or are people paying to park there?
Yeah, we can definitely with that, with some of the data that we're collecting with our LPR and some of the other things, we can definitely come back through and give you some of that so that you can make the best decision.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anything else?
Anybody else have any questions? Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
thank you.
All right, the next thing on the agenda is facade grants.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Administrator Vincent, citizens. I'd like to discuss the facade grant with you, but I also just like to give you an update, excuse me, as to what the business committee has been doing for the last 6 months. Let's hand this out. This is a flyer that our most recent flyer, that we hand out when we're meeting with businesses throughout town. Earlier this year, we decided to start really promoting the business committee to the residents and to the businesses in town. And to that end, we started introducing ourselves one by one to each business. And we've been doing that in a kind of a continuing way. But the business committee also decided that we would become more of a presence in town so people knew who we were. So we started to have what we call a business with a twist, and we've had 2 of them so far. They were both very successful. The first one we had over 50 people, the second one we had almost 40. And it's just an opportunity for networking for the businesses, but people are coming and they're returning. They're saying they wish they hadn't missed it. So I think it's a good opportunity, and it's an opportunity for the council to also come and meet the businesses. We use that as an attraction for them. One of the first projects we did, excuse me, was for the Planning and Building and Zoning Department. They were looking at Sandy Lane and with the idea that they might want to rezone it, but they really didn't know the inventory of businesses that were there. So we conducted an inventory over the course of a couple of weeks where we went and just tried to meet everybody who was there, with the signs, called people if they weren't there, and got a pretty good assessment of what businesses are there, so that Planning and Building and Zoning could use that information. We provided them with a report showing the ownership of the business, the ownership of the buildings, and some other data that I think was very valuable to them. Doing that, we also learned a lot about what's going on in town, because as a cross-check, we went to the license department and said, can you just show us all the licenses on Sandy Lane so we make sure we didn't miss anybody? We didn't miss anybody, but we're missing licenses on Sandy Lane. Okay, so this is kind of germane to your next speaker too, but so that was, one thing that I think we're learning more about what's going on in town by doing this. The next thing we did was a business blitz where KSBB jumped in and did a tremendous job helping us to identify over 250 businesses now so far in town. So we are up around 300 with what we know about the town. We need to just go into the nooks and crannies and find out, what else is there. But that's the project that we're working on right now. So I wanted you to know about that. All of this is leading up to the facade grant because nobody knew about it. A couple of people did, and they took advantage of it. But as we went around and talked to people, nobody knew about the facade grant. So the facade grant is an opportunity for people to improve the appearance of their business and be compensated up to $5,000 as a matching grant from the town. One of our members on the business committee, Lee Zulanch from Benjamin's Bakery, has taken advantage of it a few years ago. And he got his awnings that way and something else. He had 2 different grants, 2 different times. The grant's only available once a year to a business. And there are conditions. Right now it's only in the on the Route 17 corridor and I think they call this the B district down here, the circle around
C2.
B2?
C2.
C2, okay.
C2.
So one of the things that I would like to bring up for discussion is that we include more businesses in town, because I know that the goal of the business committee has been to beautify Route 17, and we are working on a couple of ideas that will also aid in that. But I think if we can beautify the businesses all around town, and there are some that really need some help, I think it would be worthwhile to the town and would be worthwhile to those people. So that's one of the things. Now, I also think that you have put in the grant allocation into the budget for next year. And I appreciate that. We asked for that too. But since I started with the committee, we did do one facade grant for the strip mall up here where Fat Jack's is, and got them to help them replace their awning. And we're working with another business right now who's preparing an application. But we're getting more inquiries about it too, because people are interested, and they know that this money is available. I'm trying to also get people, because we also have a landscaping grant, and we'll match up to $2,000 in helping people with their landscaping. And if you look around, there are a lot of businesses that, and I've got to check on what compliance actually means, but there are a lot of businesses that I don't think are compliant with the landscaping requirements for their business. This would be a great way to get them to be compliant, because landscaping is not going to cost that much, but if you can get up to $2,000 and do a $4,000 project, I think that would be worthwhile. So those are the things that we're working on right now, and we're basically trying to get that information out to people so that they understand. A couple other things I just wanted to mention is that we also are working with SCORE, Service Corps Retired Executives, and they are making themselves available to businesses in town who need help, guidance, starting up or, running their businesses, whatever they might need. We also, I used to be on the board of a small business administration lending company. And from that experience, we will also be able to help people if they are looking for small business grants or loans, because it's a great source of money. During the pandemic, I don't know if anybody realizes this, but all the SBA loans in the country were paid by the government to keep them all current. So nobody during the pandemic had to pay their loan on, make any payments on their loans. And that was, I think, something that really helped keep businesses in business. So we are very excited about what we're doing. I think the committee has a new commitment to being involved in doing the things that we're doing, and just wanted to keep you up on what's going on.
Now, our facade grant, that's budgeted at $35,000. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes.
So that means that we can give
7.
facade grants. 7 per
Right.
year. Okay.
Right, but now and there's another issue that I'm not really familiar with, because I think this rolls forward. Is there a fund that is funded with the extra 35,000 each year, or is it only funded once in a while?
It's only funded once in a while when we request funds to be put in. I think this is either the first or maybe the second time we've added funds to the facade grant.
So, that's going to be something that we're going to want to look at going forward, is funding for this, because if we see that it's actually doing good for us and for the town, I think we want to expand it if we can. But I'll come back to you.
Anybody have any questions?
I like, yeah,
Very good.
I like to say, I think the facade grant at the bottom with the businesses that we're trying to attract.
Yep.
So we need to have them.
Thank you, I agree.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the business license revenue solutions by Administrator Benson and Bobby Monroe.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, members of council, before I started as administrator for Surfside Beach, I was watching your meetings, and I remember when Mr. Monroe came to your meeting and indicated his services, that he lives in North Myrtle Beach, and talked about his company and the business license revenue resources. And I know, as Tom Vanish just mentioned, there are businesses out there that are not compliant with the town's rules and regulations. And so I spoke to Mr. Monroe to be here tonight, just to go over his company again and what they do and provide, but also know if you guys agree, we need to send out an RFP to solicit other businesses and then bring it back before council. So I was going to ask Mr. Monroe if he would kind of go through the same spiel he did a couple weeks ago.
Absolutely. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor and council members and Mr. Vincent for having me back. A little different tonight is I only have, I have more than 3 minutes. So I normally can cover all this in less than 53 minutes. I'm joking. It'll be very quickly. No. My name is Bobby Monroe, represent HDL Companies out of Brea, California. Our office is in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I live in North Myrtle Beach, and been coming to Surfside for over 25 years here on vacation up until we moved to North Myrtle Beach. But what our company does is we find these businesses, has nothing to do with your brick and mortar. The ones that are here are your businesses, they're in compliance. We're looking at these businesses that are coming in from North Carolina, Virginia, Georgia, California, Florida. They're here, and we have done some research. We know that they're here. Has nothing to do with how good or how not great your code enforcement's doing and the town's doing. It's just that these businesses have been coming in here for years and years and years, and they're very very incognito how they come in, do business. And sometimes they don't even know that they're supposed to have a business license when they come in. Most of them do. We currently have, our company started over 40 years ago by 2 city administrators. And they knew, what the cities and towns were missing across the country. And we have now over 650 cities and towns on our program it's called Revenue Enhancement. And currently in South Carolina, we have over 75 cities and towns here in South Carolina. Every city and town in West Virginia is on this program. It brings back literally millions of dollars back to the town and the cities that are across the state. And me knowing Surfside, being here for the last 25 years for vacations and staying in North Myrtle Beach, I see them, the same businesses that we find for Georgetown, Goose Creek, Conway, Columbia, they're here too. They're doing business. They don't have a business license. The statute allows us to go back 3 years to collect for penalties. Your local businesses, all your brick and mortar will never hear or see HDL companies in their businesses. We're not looking for those guys. We will not catch the guys down at the parking lot striping that parking lot, or they're coming in from Abbeville or North Augusta. But we're looking for the big companies that are coming in day after day, week after week, doing several hundred thousands of dollars, millions even. And really what we find is pennies on the dollar that they know they owe. They're never going to call up Miss Sherry and say, hey, we need to get into compliance with the town of Surfside. If they can keep getting away with it, they will. And we know a lot of these businesses by name. And just like I told Mr. Vincent, when we come into a new town or city, these companies will say, okay, where are you guys now? We'll say we're in Surfside Beach, South Carolina. They'll say, okay, send us their business license. We'll fill it out, let us know what we owe, and then the checks come in. So it is a huge revenue generator. What's even more important is for the city and the towns to keep growing across the state. And what this does, I always like to use the analogy if you have a stack of business license, this high before we come into town, in 5 years, that size could double, triple even. Every month, we will send the town a list of these businesses, and it can be anywhere from 10 to 30 on average, but as many as 100, 150 per businesses that we know are here doing business. And we do all the calling, all the collecting. It will never interfere with what Ms. Sherry's doing there at the town. And it is, it's all performance based, which means that if we don't find the businesses, the town of Surfside will never receive an invoice from us. And I always tell everybody, I can tell you how great we are and how much, hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars we brought back to the state. But I always tell everybody, get on the phone, call the folks that around, the cities. I don't think I showed you guys this last time, but just kind of a visual, everybody in red are our clients. The three that we don't have down on this side of my world is North Myrtle Beach, and Surfside. And but when I leave North Myrtle Beach and I go toward Darlington, there's not a city through there that we don't have all the way up. We just brought on Lancaster, South Carolina. Goose Creek came on about 6 months ago. Conway's been with us for, I think, going on 2 years now. Columbia's been with us for about 3 years. It's a big program, and it is something that really and truly the town of Surfside could benefit from tremendously. And like I said, that's really what our program does. That's one of the programs. We have other programs that we can talk about later. I did talk to Mr. Vincent about one of the things, which is short-term rental program. We found over 300 VRBOs and Airbnbs for a very large city real close to you within 3 days that they didn't know they had. So they're out there. I know that a lot of the cities and towns, the ordinances are not really clear on how to enforce that, but knowledge is key. And if you know that, all these folks are renting their homes out and Surfside's losing money. They're supposed to have a business license. And so with that said, I mean, any taxes and fees that Surfside collects, we can help administer on all of those. We can do tax audits, but the program we're talking about tonight is the revenue enhancement, which is a revenue program that you'll see revenue come in the very first month once you guys get going. So I'd love to open it up for any questions that you might have and try to answer those. I know you couldn't ask questions last time, but thank you for stopping me before I walked out. Please, ask any questions.
Mr. Mayor, the question to you is, you talked about this money that you collect. Do y'all get a percentage of the money that is collected? Is that how y'all get paid?
Yes, sir. Right now, Surfside's getting 0 because you don't know the businesses. It is a 50-50 split, and the 50-50 is only for a 2-year program going forward. So if we look at July of 2023, if we bring you 30 new businesses in July of 2023, and July of 2025 is the last year that we share in that revenue, 100% of those 20 or 30 that we brought to you back in July of 2023 will be 100% of Surfside's. August, another 20 to 30 will roll off. September, October, so on and so on. So it is, a continued ongoing basis, but after 2 years, the town of Surfside will receive 100% of those funds from there on forward.
Well, you answered my question. My question was going to be, do you monitor any kind of the VRBOs and the Airbnbs, but would they be under a similar fee structure?
No, ma'am, that's
Or is that a different-
that's a little different structure, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can come back and meet with the mayor and council.
Well,
on
I
that
just think that might be
Mr. Jerry.
something we'd also be interested in, because I know we do have some Airbnb and VRBOs that are not accounted for in town.
Absolutely. The one that I've stayed at for 25 years. But, so, yeah, that's what we do. And it's, like I said, it is a big revenue generator. And I always tell everybody, a lot of people will come in, present to you, but you'll never get anybody to come that will come in and see you and say, hey, I want to come to work for the town, and everything I find, I'm going to give you half of it. Because right now, you don't know, my dad used to always tell me, it's not what you know about money, it's what you don't know about money that hurts you. And that is so true. And these businesses know they owe it, like I said, but they're never going to come to you and say, hey, I need to get into compliance. I know I owe 3 years going back for penalties. What is that fee? That never happens. But since we know who they are, the revenue comes in the very first month, and therefore. Just also let you know, North Augusta, Aiken, Lexington, Gaffney are 4 of the ones, and Irmo have been with us the longest, and we still find them between 10 and 30 new businesses every month. And they've been with us for over 12 years. So, and as you well know, and I'm sure Ms. Cherry can tell you, new businesses come in every day, starting up, and, those are the ones that she will always take care of, and we will not interfere with anything that she does. We're like a back office for her. We do work with her and her folks. And the only thing that would, I guess, put a little bit more work on you would be sending out.
Let me correct you.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Oh, you're the town.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, okay.
I'm starting to feel a little uncomfortable.
I guess. Well, when I saw a clerk, I apologize. City clerk.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but the town would still have to send out those business licenses to those businesses that we identify, even though we'll have the form already completed, filled out, and when it comes in, it'll have a HTL up in the top right-hand corner, so they'll know it came from us.
Very good. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
If, Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to authorize the administrator to prepare a formal RFP so that we can get the formal proposal to provide the services and include the consideration for the Airbnb and VRBOs for the short-term rentals.
Second. Any discussion on it before we vote? Sherry?
Mr. Drake,
Yes.
Mr. Holder,
Yes.
Ms. Keating,
Yes.
Mr. Kinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Kreckloff,
Yes.
Mr. Staley,
Yes.
Mayor Hellier.
Yes. Thank you. The next thing on this is the business section and the parking committee recommendation by Administrator Benson.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of council, I had met with the parking committee a couple of weeks ago. The purpose is the parking committee recently would like to present their proposal to council. So currently, a few of the local restaurants in the vicinity of the pier have eliminated their parking for patrons and employees, thus preventing the problem. Parking at the pier or adjacent to is at a premium for the town, and with the new tenants coming soon to the pier, the problem is only going to get worse. Based on the committee's research last year, the gravel parking lot on Surfside Drive was underutilized. Some of the restaurants expressed an interest in parking and purchasing parking spaces for their employees. This lot currently has 32 car parking spaces and 3 golf cart parking spaces. So the parking committee unanimously recommended that the town offer the restaurants the opportunity to purchase parking spaces at the Surfside Drive gravel lot for $300 per year, including signage. And I did meet with Mr. Kinkin and Mr. Coleman. And there was another gentleman, Rod was there.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, we have an ordinance already that allows employees of the E-District to obtain a parking pass for $20 a month. And what it used to be was that allowed them to park in the designated employee parking only that was basically the right-of-way on Yopon Drive North. Now, for some reason, the prior council decided we wanted to do away with that designation as employee parking only and open that up to just, parking on the right of way. So, we already have an ordinance that says the employees of the E-District can buy a parking pass. All they have to do is do so, and that allows them to park in, I believe the ordinance says permit only parking. I'm not sure where that is.
Surfside Drive.
Is that just the Surfside
Our
Drive?
spots on Surfside Drive.
Okay.
They have the signs there already.
Okay, so, we already have 2 solutions to this. We can put back the signs that say employee parking on Yopon Drive and say, and whether we say you have to buy an annual parking pass for $300, or we go through the administration of employee decals for a month, we would want to meet with Pivot about the logistics of that. But, we already have 2 underutilized areas. Well, maybe the right-of-way is not underutilized anymore, but we did have designated parking for the employees of that area before we even passed the E-District ordinance that took away their obligation to provide parking. So I'm just not sure why we're reinventing the wheel and taking up, a parking lot and designated spaces in a revenue generating parking lot.
Mr. Mayor, can I address that? Because I talked to 2 of the vendors on the pier. The committee members couldn't because at that point we had to sign both of them. The bait shop would have 2 employees that would come in early in the morning, would buy the monthly stickers or registrations, and they'd probably end up parking on Seaside Drive. His concern was the employees that came in the afternoon would have to drive around trying to find a parking place. If he had designated parking place, which he would end up paying for, they could just pull into that parking place and go to work. The other I talked to was the ice cream store. Their biggest concern was most of the people that work in their stores are young, mostly women. And he said it would be a huge advantage if he knew that when they left work, they could all walk to the same parking lot together as a safety factor. Instead of going over here and over there and somewhere else, they would all be together. And they close the store and they leave at the same time. So both of them were very in favor of doing this. Plus, one of the existing restaurants that has parking wanted to have places for his employees so that his parking spaces could be used by customers. And makes a lot of sense to me. At the time, it was underutilized. I've actually seen that lot full this year. Last year, I never saw more than 3 or 4 cars in there. It even surprised me that they made $240 per space for the year. So, yeah, the committee was very in favor of this because this is something that the restaurant people wanted. And we did say we'd limit to 16 spots. Well, we've already got requests for 14 of them. And that's just from 3 companies. So it is a different program. There is the $20 a month that's up to the employees. I talked to Pivot. All the restaurant has to do is, of course, pay for it, but every month they have to give them a list of who's eligible to park there. In other words, what's the tag numbers of people that are eligible to park there, because it's really up to the business owner dealing with Pivot to monitor it. It's not something the town has to monitor. It's between the business owners and Pivot.
Mr. Mayor, the parking spot in that.
I'm through.
Each one got.
Mr. Mayor, to Bill's, what he was just talking about, you said that there was one of the restaurants that was interested, it's already down there?
Yes.
Does he have parking spaces?
He has parking spaces.
So he still, even though he's got parking spaces, wants something that provides parking for his employees.
Well, for his employees, so that free up spaces for customers.
I understand that.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to say, I don't have a big problem with selling them passes, but I do have a problem with reserving spaces for them. Where does it end? How many do we give? Like you say, they're already spoken for basically, and that once the word gets out, more people are gonna want them because it does free up their lot for employees or for paying customers. But that's the problem with the E-District in the first place, was they were allowed to get by without providing parking. Now they want the town basically to provide parking at a fee, but I don't think it should be guaranteed. They have to come, first serve, because that's just the way it is. When parking is in short supply, you let whoever can park.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I think that's what we have in the ordinance already. We have an ordinance that says an employee of the E-District can buy a parking pass. It's $20 a month. All they need to do is go to Pivot, register their vehicle for that 30 days. If it expires, they want to renew it, they're going to have to go visit Pivot and renew it. It's got nothing to do with the businesses. It's got nothing to do with the town if they, and they park along Surfside Drive. First come, first serve. If there's an empty spot, they can park there. They've got a decal. They don't have to do anything more. So we already have an ordinance and a mechanism to provide employee parking to the E-District employees. I'm like Mr. Kukla, I'm not in favor of reserving parking spaces in a particular lot that is an otherwise revenue generator. But everybody else has to park first come, first serve. You know, I don't get a reserved spot if I want to go down there.
Yes, but them businesses that we have down there are getting tax base from the businesses. So they are paying extra to get that because we do get tax money for all employees, or all the people that goes down there and visit them places.
When you look at the amount of money that we paid for that parking spot, and for 32 spots at $300 a year, that's $9,600 a year.
Right.
That we could offer that lot. It's gonna take us a good 20, 30 years to get our money back that we put into the parking lot.
But on the other hand, instead of providing us a number that they make and off of that parking lot if we didn't do that. That way, we got half of that parking lot reserved for a parking that they're paying for. We don't use that lot on the off season. Well, she gave us a sort of a number while ago. She didn't tell us what that parking lot is actually bringing in.
Yes, she did.
I think she's-
From March to May.
Text to park numbers from March to May for just that line, not including park mobile or cash payments. But I gave text to park numbers for that March, for that amount, and it was over $4,000 just from March to May.
Month.
Just for
One
the
month.
text to park platform.
1 month.
No, that's 3 months.
3 months.
3 months divided by 32.
Okay.
So
Well,
it's
you're really gonna have some
$130
months in there
a
that
parking
it ain't gonna
space.
pay off. Even if they idolize that parking lot for 3 months, or main 3 months of the year, you're still getting, $300 or $240 for that, or $300, whatever you're gonna charge for that from spaces. So to me, it looks like if we can do it, it would be better to idolize 16 spots out there and sell them spots off. Instead of just, that's guaranteed money that's coming in.
Jerry, what's your recommendation on all this?
Obviously, listen to the conversation. I did not know the background. So I don't think I have enough background on the finances and what Pivot has given us as far as the information of the $4,000. So I don't think there's enough information on the revenue generating of those parking spaces in that lot for me to make a recommendation. I think it's what the council decides is best fit.
Well, that and versus the Surfside Drive lots.
Right.
I don't know.
Spaces
Mr.
there.
Mr. Mayor, during the making of the E-District, the 3 newest businesses down there decided they didn't want any parking, and they wanted to build lot line to lot line. Well, those 3 businesses are the real estate owned or somehow part owner of Surfside Realtor, correct? Then his parking lot at Surfside Realtor is empty 80% of the time. If you go by there in the daytime, the front's got some cars, the back has a few, but it's still a lot of parking places in that parking lot that are empty. And it's only 15 parking places for those employees that would be affected in that area. I'm confused why, if he's renting the buildings to them, why don't he rent them a parking place?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Mayor, Mr.
The-
Sammy's already spoken twice, so has Ms. Keating.
the E-District restaurants did not respond. The only restaurant that is existing right now already has parking, and he wanted places that his employees could go park, not drive around, go park, and open up parking. He has parking spaces. Open those up to his customers. The 2 on the pier, they're not gonna be able to park at the pier. They're gonna have to park somewhere. And it would make more sense for them to have designated parking places instead of having to ride around, spend a half hour trying to find a place to park for them, and they're willing to pay it. And we we came up with $300, or the committee came up with $300, because last year, you took all the income and divided it by 32 spaces, came up to $240 a space. And that was for the 8 months that we charged. It was a convenience factor for them that made it worthwhile, plus a safety factor. And I understand the $20, and I'm sure it's being used, but it doesn't guarantee that you're going to be able to park together, or you're even going to find a close parking place. It just allows you to park wherever you park is going to be covered. So it's not apples and oranges. In the E district, the 3 restaurants that they're talking about didn't even respond. And if you want to leave them out of the program, that's fine. I don't care. It's just that you've got 2 new businesses coming, and they think it's a good idea. You have an existing business that has its own parking that thought it was a good idea. Thank you.
Well, I know someone like Bubba's, and talking to the owners over there, that they have over 35 employees that go to work regularly at their restaurant. So, I mean, they have some parking over there, but, what are we going to do when the Surf Diner opens? When the Surf Diner opens, there's no parking for them either. So, I mean, here we got that parking lot over there that has 32 spaces. And when you look at all the totality of the employees over there that are going to be jockeying for those spaces, I think we're going to have a huge shortage anyway.
Well, Mr. Mayor, they park in the right of ways now. I mean, I've seen them park on my street, and they park on the Dogwood side street. They park all along there. They get out with their shirt of the name of the restaurant they work in. They park there for free.
So what do we want to do on it?
Can I get up and give a little background on this?
Go ahead, sir. Come on.
Harry Combs, the chairman of the parking committee. Years ago, we made them a deal with them, $20, they can park on your pond. The reason why it's no longer, the last council took that away, because I had a couple of homeowners, they said that's where their residents park, the people who are renting park. It's baloney, but they got that way, it got changed. Reason why we don't want to do the $20 thing, if you know anybody in the restaurant business, some people work there for 3 hours. Some work for 3 days, some work for 10 years. So if you give them a $20 permit for the whole month, you could have somebody who works for 3 days or 3 hours and gets a permit for the whole month. It didn't seem like a good idea. We surveyed every single business down there, as we affectionately call it, the petting zoo, which is the hyena, the llama, and the pig. They wanted nothing to do with this. They're the ones who got rid of all their parking, and they didn't care about it. But now what they're doing, they have placards with the town of Surfside Beach on top of it. Mr. Mayor showed me it, and I saw it. They park around their restaurants with those things. They didn't care about it. We also came up with and suggested to the last administrator, and I believe he said it, I'm almost sure, he said it at a meeting once, valet parking, and use Surfside Realty for valet parking. But we still wanted to get spaces for workers. So where could they go? Well, they used to park on Seaside Drive. Now Seaside Drive is a pay to park, so that's out. Yaupon, they could park there, but early beach goers, if they're smart, that's where they go. So where are we gonna go? Honestly, I don't know, because what we have is that gravel lot. They let them get rid of all their parking. The parking committee was totally against it, and guess what the council did? They fired us. And now it's biting this town in the butt. So they have this, I think $500,000 or $600,000 lot they built. Nobody uses it. Honestly, nobody uses it. And I know on Facebook, you have people saying, oh, they use it, they use it. They don't use it. Surveyed last Sunday, the second busiest week, rental week, the second busiest day of the week, last Sunday. 90 degrees out, the gravel parking lot. At 10:30 in the morning, that's when I get up, there was 0 people parked there. At 12 noon, there was 6 people parked there. 1 PM, 6, 2 PM, 6, 4 PM, 2, 5 PM, 3, 6 PM, 10. Now, at 7:30, there was 20. But having said that, there was 20 parkers in that lot. There was numerous spots along the road that other people could park in. So I know you're saying, well, you're taking 16 spots away from parkers, people who pay. But no, what you're really doing is you're freeing up other spaces so that people could park. And the reason why I made it $300, like Mr. Kinkin said, you were only getting $240 out of it. And someone said the Surf Diner, I spoke to Sean from the Surf Diner. He was interested in parking for his employees. So it's a win-win. Nobody's using a lot, and that's the truth. Occasionally, do they use a lot? Yeah. But there's always at least 10 spots vacant in the lot, even when it's a big thing. And on a Sunday also, there was, you had music in the park. So I think some of those people will park there for music in the park. I think that's it, but that's the history of it. We tried so many different ways. Surfside Drive, yes, there's permit parking there. They could park there with the $20. But I don't think it's a good idea because people are going to abuse it. I'm not working, I park there. I'm not working, my mother wants to go. She parks there for free. It's not a good idea. Designating spots in the lot. I mean, we hashed this over for months. We went back and forth. It's not something like, we dreamt of it one morning and said, yeah, let's just do this. We thought about it, we pulled it apart, we pushed it back together again. And this is the best solution we could find right now for something the restaurants did themselves and the last council did to this town.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Harry.
And tell them that you check parking, how many times a day?
How many times?
A lot.
I do it all the time.
Yeah.
Spend half my life.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to add, I have video that I took on Saturday. I just counted 17 cars at 2:30 on Saturday. I don't know if they were paying or had flights that were from Surfside Beach.
I just say one thing about Saturdays.
Yep. Well, but if you're gonna be taking it up with other cars, these 17 probably couldn't have, some of the 17 couldn't have parked.
But they could have parked somewhere else. What happens on Saturdays is this, people don't want to leave because of traffic.
Yeah.
And people want to come early.
Well.
And they
but
can't get
pay to
into the
park
beach
then.
houses.
But then they pay to park.
Right, and they can't park. That's as simple as that.
Yeah.
But Saturday is an unusual day. And that's when a lot of people come to the beach from across the way.
I'm gonna need to make a motion.
Yeah, you can if you'd like.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we offer up to 16 designated parking spaces to our local businesses in the gravel lot for $300 a year, which includes signage, so that their employees will have a designated place they can go and park.
Second. Any more discussion on this before we vote?
Sure.
Mr. Drake?
No.
Mr. Holder?
Yes.
Ms. Keating?
No.
Mr. Kinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Kreckler?
No.
Mr. Stabey?
Yes.
Mayor Hellier?
No. The next thing is public comments, and this is related to town services or business conducted. I'll take public comments now. All right, moving right along, we'll go to town council discussion and comments. And we'll start out with Mr. Cracklaw.
Well, thanks to everyone that came out. We have a few people that we don't see very often at all. And thanks to everyone that called in. I always appreciate people calling and giving me their opinions on what's going on and what they'd like to see go on. With that being said, good night.
Okay, Mr. Kinkin.
I want to thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank KSBB for all the work they do in this town. They do a lot of good. This program, with John's help, is hopefully will keep our beaches, parking areas a little cleaner. Cigarette butts are a big issue, and they're right. When you go on a beach sweep, you pick up a lot of cigarette butts. You even pick them up right next to the disposal, which I never have understood. If you're standing there, why can't you put it in there? But anyway, I appreciate what they do. I want to thank Tom and his business committee and all the work they're doing. It's making a difference. I did attend one of their functions and enjoyed meeting some of the business people that I didn't know. Had a conflict for the other one, but again, I'll say we live in a great town, and we're fortunate to be here. Hope everybody has a good summer, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Mr. Staley.
Thanks for everybody coming out and the people's listening in. I'm going to make a comment on this sign that they put out in the park. I'm all for whatever the police department needs to do to make our town safer, our events safer. And I want you to know, Kenny, I support you 100% for however it works out. I'm saying that there are a lot of things going on in town. We've been working on, and this pier's been one of them. And I hope that we get the keys to it by August 8th, but might not happen. As everybody knows, we get delayed. But we are working on things, and it is good to see a good crowd here. Thanks to KSB, they've done a great job today. And thanks to John and his department, all departments here in town work really well. And I want everybody to know that I'm proud of them as one of the council people here. And on saying that, have a good night and thanks for coming.
Ms. Keating.
I want to thank everybody for coming out and tuning in. I think, I've said it before that I'm very proud of the leadership that Tom Banish has brought to the business committee. And I think they've really reinvigorated the business committee as well as the interest of our local businesses in the town, and have really communicated and addressed a lot of ongoing angst with the town that was maybe based on misperceptions. And I think the efforts of Tom leading the team of the business committee has made some great strides, and I look forward to what else they will accomplish in their future. So Tom, thank you very much as always. I'm all for the cigarette butt. I'd love to have one in my backyard if you would be so kind as to put it in my backyard. I'm tired of cleaning up after my husband as well. But I think it's a very worthwhile project, and, as long as they're emptied frequently enough, people don't put them in the receptacles, because a lot of times you can't fit another one in those receptacles, and that's part of the problem. I know when I was a smoker, I had a little, looked like a coffee cup, and it was a portable ashtray, had the lid on it and everything else. And that went with me when I went someplace that, we were gonna be out in public or something. I didn't pitch them out the window or, drop them on the ground. I might put them out on the ground, but then they went in the cup. So, not everybody is as conscious about that as maybe they could be, but I think that's a great program, and I thank everybody that's been involved with that. So, I think we've got, several things I think we addressed tonight. There was a lot of information. Hopefully we get more and more people to come out and participate in the meetings and learn and listen to what's going on in town. So again, I thank everybody for their comments and their feedback, the private messages on Facebook and some of the emails, etc. So as always, stay safe, stay healthy. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Mr. Drake.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and thank Surfside Beach Beautiful for what they've done with the cigarette butt program. It's gonna be very good to see that at the beach, and hopefully more people will put them where they need to be. Mr. Banish, you do a great job with the business committee. Thank you very much. It's turned around tremendously, and I really do appreciate it. To the signage in the park, I think we're gonna have to have more discussion on that, but anybody listening would like to call your council members, you can look their numbers up, give them a call. A lot of gun supporters in South Carolina, and I think it needs to be, because you cannot depend on the police all the time. They're here, they do a good job. They cannot be everywhere. And if you think they're gonna rescue you, I hate to tell you, you're dreaming, because it's not gonna happen right then when you think you're gonna be there. So with that, I'm gonna call it quits here tonight. Y'all have a good one.
Mr. Holder.
I want to thank everybody for coming out. I think it's great to see how many people attending the golf cart parade. I think about 160 carts were in the parade. It went a long time because the whole stuff for it. And especially some people that walked it in between the cars. So, and also, Tom, good job with the business committee. I'm losing my voice, but I noticed some golf carts had the business committee on it, so good job there. But thank you for all the directors and the job you do in town. You have a good night.
Well, we've had a lot of conversation tonight about a lot of things, but I think we got a lot accomplished. As far as the cigarette butts, my main concern that I see with cigarette butts is all the condos in Ocean Boulevard rentals. They don't let you smoke. So what does everybody do? Everybody comes out of their rental, they stand on Ocean Boulevard, smoke cigarettes, and throw their cigarette butts all over. As part of the beach sweep, that's where I see most of the cigarette butts, on Ocean Boulevard, right on the sidewalk, where people are walking and stuff like that. So we'll have to see what we can do about getting that done. We definitely have some parking issues, and we're gonna work on them. We definitely have some right-of-way issues, and we're gonna work on them. But we're also getting a lot accomplished. And I want to thank Rob Clements for his guidance on the pier that we're working on right now. That, it looks like we're coming to a conclusion, which we haven't had in a long time on what goes. So I want to thank everybody for coming out, and with that, everybody have a good evening, and I need a motion to go into executive session. I don't have a motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I make a motion that we take executive session on 30-4-70, A1 to discuss employment, performance, compensation, promotions, and all.
Second.
Okay, any discussion before we vote on it?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We've had multiple executive sessions on this topic. At the conclusion of the last one, we voted to empower the administrator to complete an investigation and determine a course of action. And to entertain any more on this topic usurps his authority and his accountability for performing what we have already empowered him to perform. So I think this is unnecessary unless the purpose of this executive session is to hear his results, which I understand that's not what this is for. I think we need to step back, allow him to do what he needs to do and bring his recommendation forward, which I hope will be at the next council meeting so that we can vote once and for all for a conclusion of this incident. But we should not, as a council, be entertaining any more discussion on it until Mr. Vincent completes his investigation with all parties involved.
Mr. Mayor, I feel the same as Ms. Keating. I'm giving him a direction from the council to do his job and to come back with a resolution for us. And I think we need to step back and let him do his job.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
this council has not heard any facts. We asked that the July 3rd meeting be suspended until we had the person to give us the facts. That wasn't done. We scheduled a meeting, another meeting. It was canceled. At some point, this council needs to hear the facts. And there's only one person who can give us the facts, and he's here, and that's what we ought to hear tonight. It's not taken away from our administrator. It's just that I'd like to hear the facts. And I don't want to do it behind closed doors. I mean, I don't want to do it individually. I want us all to hear the same thing at the same time. And I think that's it's the only fair way to do it. And we have not done that yet. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I believe if we want to hear the facts, we need to hear the facts, which Ms. King is not here, which she could give us some facts also about when certain things happened and whatever. I believe that if we want to hear the story, we need to hear more than just one side.
Well, Mr. Mayor, again, that is the directive we have given the administrator to get the facts, figure out, what was done when, what was correct, what was incorrect, what is the best course of action. And it is under the ordinance, it is the administrator's responsibility to bring recommendations to council to vote on. Council does not do the investigation itself. We have to get out of the weeds, let the administrator do what we've hired him to do. And that's when he brings his recommendation and his facts to us to make that determination. We've already discussed it 3 or 4 different times, and until we allow him the time to complete his evaluation and his investigation, we have no business being involved in any further discussions.
Mr. Mayor, who actually put this on the executive session for tonight?
I did. And the reason that I put it on the executive session is I had a conversation with Chief Clement earlier in the week. Chief Clement said that he wanted to come before council and he wanted to explain what was going on and what it was. I had a request from Kinkin for him to do the same thing. And after I talked to Chief Clement, I talked to the town administrator on the phone and asked him about it. And he said that he didn't have a problem with it. So, that's why it's on the agenda.
We should vote on it.
Oh, we are going to. Is there any other discussion before we vote? Jerry?
Mr. Drake,
No.
Mr. Holder,
Yes.
Ms. Keating,
No.
Mr. Kinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Crickwell,
No.
Mr. Stamey,
Yes.
Mayor Hellier.
Yes. With that, I need a motion to go.
That was the motion.
That was the motion.